Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is the first part of 4 little videos for this week. Next week there'll probably be 4 more videos, and what it is these were going to be episodes 147 to 150 of the Sophie Art podcast, talking about my psychedelic experience with DMT. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to release these as little videos, and all it is it's me reading what I got told during the experience and during my automatic writing when I woke up the night after from sleeping. So what I'm going to do is I'll put these out as raw videos, and then each week on the podcast I'm going to try to condense that week's videos into a little video, into a podcast. So this week we've got 4 parts, which are going to be parts 2B, 2C, 2D and 2E. And then next week we'll have probably a part 3B, 3C and stuff. So, well, I've got a load of stuff written here, because what I've done is I've just watched the video and I thought I'd do a tiny little intro rounding up what's coming up and talking a little bit about stuff, because what's happened is I'm putting these in order, because as you get, a lot of this will, well, let's just read it and see what I've put. So, what does it say? There are so many more of these to come, as the writing hasn't stopped since the DMT experience. It's now actually 6 days since I took the DMT, and I'm still getting these weird messages and stuff. So what I'm doing, I'm at work. I'm actually at work, and I'm writing. At the middle of working, I'm getting these things and I'm writing it down. So, what is it here? It's probably, I've put here, it's maybe best to watch the first part, which is episode 146 of the podcast, to get the theme of this part. So I'll put a link in the description. And I said, so what I put here, once I've converted all these into videos, once I've converted all of these, my writings into videos, I'll start researching these topics to see if there's any evidence, as this thing goes pretty deep. It starts talking about the pyramids being time machines, the vaccine being a way to change the timeline via our DNA, and now we're all going to have to make a choice of letting go of the illusion to return to the base timeline, which would be like the new Earth, but the new Earth is actually really the old Earth before the pyramids. It gets very well. The thing about this is I do not know anything about this, so I do not know where it came from. So this is why I feel like it's even more powerful, and this is why I want to get the messages out on the podcast and on the videos. And I've also said here, also, the word reptilian is used, but well, what I've since noticed is you can replace that word with demon, devil, nasty person, evil. I mean, whatever takes your fancy. It's the label. It's only a label, and that label represents the same thing, which is a being, or if you want to call it a person, who is a 6, which is out of balance. So all it is it's a let's just say a person or an entity who is out of balance. That's all it is. So this thing goes into the numbers as well. 369. They are the key numbers. It's all to do with 369, which is quite amazing. So I put, this is something about the face mask as well. I said they would, in one of the videos months ago, I said they will change the rules, so you're going to have to be very adaptable. And I said, and that's exactly what they've done. They've started tightening the control. But what these writings have done is it's made me realise why this is all happening. So that they need to, because they've got to try to force you into taking a vaccine. Because as these writings will reveal, they are running out of time before the time loop closes. Now this all sounds crazy, I know it does, but I really hope you stay with it, keep an open mind, take it all in, see what you think. And what does it say? This vaccine is the key to their master plan of changing the timeline to a 6, which will put it out of balance. So they want to put the timeline into a timeline that's out of balance. And they've got a certain amount of time, because everything is cycles. The Earth is in a cycle, the humans are in a cycle, which we call life and death. But the Earth itself is in a cycle. So they're trying to change the timeline of Earth into a out of balance one. And the thing is, well, it's all going to come in later on. So some of the episodes later in the videos and stuff, all of this will make sense. At the moment it might seem a bit weird, or even far-fetched and stuff. But if you follow these videos, you'll see how it all builds up. It's quite amazing. So I said here, it's a master plan, but they need your free will for you to be part of it. So in other words, we always have a choice. It's mass manipulation over many years, all ending in 2021. This is the year where it'll either go into an out-balanced timeline or it will return to a timeline in balance. So it says, what I've put here is it says you will have to lose everything to not become a 6. But what's funny is you're only going to be losing the illusion. Yeah, you can't lose truth unless you agree to it. And even if you agree to it and lost it, it would only be temporarily, which I believe is 26,000 years. So it would only be 26,000 years. So you would actually have another chance to regain it, regain connection with the truth. So look, what have I put here? Look, there's quite a lot that I've wrote, but it says 5 to 6 hours. This video that's about to follow, I recorded it on Sunday, which was about 5 to 6 hours after I had taken the DMT, and it's after I'd woken up. And what I did was I started writing in my automatic writing journal about my DMT experience, but I wasn't aware that the DMT was still in my system, and it was still communicating with me. So I said, some of this, because what happened is my automatic writing suddenly went off into this direction that just went on for hours of writing stuff. It was almost just like the psychedelic experience. It was crazy. So I said, some of this gets a bit gibberish, but the download has continued, so stuff will make a lot more sense in later videos. But if you watch the later video without watching this, that wouldn't make sense. So it's almost like you almost have to watch it in sequence to put it all together. It's quite weird. So I said here, so this video coming up is more of a retelling of episode 146 of the podcast, where I talk about my DMT experience. It's just a bit more flushed out, and there is more stuff as well. And I said I'm explaining the grid, so there's this grid system which I've got in the video. You can actually see it in the video. It's a grid with a cross with a circle in the middle. I said at the time, well, this video is explaining the grid at the time, but things have changed a bit, which I'll explain in later videos. So this video is a bit scatty as well, but I was just getting the words out. So even the words aren't quite in order yet. That's what I'm saying. It's almost like I was just throwing all the pieces of the puzzle out, and then as the videos move on, all these pieces of the puzzle start to line up in order. So I've put here, fear is an illusion. This one's going to talk about fear is an illusion, death and life, balance of opposites. It's a never-ending cycle of cycles. Yeah, that's what's going on. It's a never-ending cycle of cycles. We've got the sphere of possibilities, which is weird because I actually said in this video, when I rewatched it, I realised I said the word sphere of possibilities, which I got in the DMT experience. The thing that's weird is, years ago in my meditations, I used to visit this place of a sphere. It was all white with a sphere in the middle. What you could do is you could look at that sphere, and even though there was nothing there, you looked at it, you could see anything. So what I was doing in this meditation was I was imagining in a future I wanted. I could see it, and if you like looked at it inside of the sphere, you would like teleport into that experience in the meditation. And that went on for about a year, and that I've stopped getting that. I used to love that because it felt like what you could do was you could sort of change your future by experiencing it in the meditation. So I'll sort of talk about that in a minute, which is a bit weird because it makes me realise how the past and the future are communicating with each other. This video is also going to talk about point particles and dimensions. I'll talk about balance between New Earth, which in later videos I'll talk more about the New Earth and how it's really the old Earth before the pyramids were built, which the pyramids is what's created the VR system, which is what we're inside of, which is like one of the time loops. So as above, so below, which is actually spinning. So the above could actually be below. We get into that as well. What's it say here? I said, turns out, but building these pyramids years ago was us, as like humans, it was us sealing our own fate into this balance of being out of cycle, which is just like now. History's repeating itself, only this time it's via a vaccine that everyone will willingly take and they'll be sealing their own fate inside of this new out of balance cycle. It's a never-ending cycle of things trying to put things out of balance and things trying to stay in balance, and we're actually part of it as a human. I'm also going to talk about the Akashic Records, and what have I put here? It says what it is what it is. I love that. What it is it's cycles of time that we are merely being carried along by. Yeah, but it's like we're in a little boat. The human is like a little boat, and we've got free will to decide which direction the boat goes, but the river of time is constantly flowing. So if we don't do anything, our little boat is just going to get steered along with the river, which the river is going to be taking it into an out of balance timeline. You can actually steer your little boat with free will and put it bang onto this other part of the river. But the thing is, this river is going to split off like this into two parts, an out of balance one and a balanced one. At some point it will rejoin, and the same thing will happen again. So it's going to be constantly going in and out of balance like that. But the thing is, you have choice at the moment. We are at a point where we can actually choose which side of this river we want to flow down. And then at some point what will happen is the rivers will, well, at the moment the rivers are together. They are about to split off like that. So if our little boat, if we don't steer our boat, we're going to end up on the out of balance river, which will become separate from the balanced one, but only for a certain period of time, which I think is going to be about 2,600 or 2,600 years or 26,000 years, something. And then at that point it will come back together again. So this is why it's important but not important. It's important. I think I said that later in here somewhere. Well, yeah, I'll say it in a minute. But so basically that's it. We're at a point here, and it's all to do with the vaccine. If you don't realise what's going on, you will just take that vaccine, which is going to steer you into the out of balance timeline. If you become aware of what's happening, you can actually say, no, I'm not having that, and you can put yourself where you should be, which is in balance. It's brilliant. It's really brilliant and genius, but it's quite amazing. It's quite sort of it's sort of like frightening in a weird way. Frightening but exciting, because we are right about to make this decision. I'm also going to talk about being transgender, never-ending stories. I'm going to talk about, well, in the video I said the word strangling, but I didn't really talk about it. But what happened was, when I was a child in 1993, I got strangled, which was a very pivotal moment in my life. Now, some of the videos later on are going to explain that, which is quite weird. But I thought I'd put it there just because if you hear the word strangling and you don't know what I'm talking about, it's I got strangled as a child, which kind of triggered a lot of things in my life, really. I've also put here the 369 in the grid that I was trying to work out in the video. Later I got told, well, the 3 is the grid. So the grid itself is 3, which is process. The grid is showing process. The 9 is the cycle in the middle, which is balance, which means the process has been resolved. There's no entanglements at that point. Positive and negative are coexisting, which is the 9. So the 9 is only a tiny little piece of the whole grid, which is why it's so hard to not get carried away with the 6. In other words, if you don't do anything, you can look at that grid and you can sort of see the flow of time in that grid. The middle bit is if you steer your ship into the balanced timeline, then you're going to be the middle bit. If you don't do anything, or if you choose to go with the vaccine, what that's going to do is put you into the bit with the 6, which is the rest of it. So all of the stuff around the circle is the 6, which is out of balance. So this is why you can see, if you look at that grid, you can visually see how much more likely it is that you're going to end up as a 6, which is why you're going to have to really focus to get yourself into the middle bit of balance. And you're also going to have to go against all of that resistance of the 6. So the rest of the world is going to be 6, trying to make you a 6 as well. But you're going to have to stay right in the centre and be a 9. So I've also put here, when you die, you will actually be living. It's all flipped in reverse, this is. So in order to stay alive in this illusion, means you will actually be staying dead. So it's all flipped in reverse. So in other words, if you think, right, I'll take the vaccine, which will keep me alive, that's actually going to keep you dead. because the timeline out of balance is death, basically. The timeline in balance is life, which will be like bliss. It's quite cool. I've also put here, in the video I talk about a fanny. I talk about how I think the Earth is a fanny. I visualise like a fanny with these two Earths on either side. Well, again, this goes into the 369, which I've found out later. So the fanny is the free, which is the process. And you can sort of think of like a fanny is creating. A fanny gives birth. So that is where the process happens, inside of the fanny, which is quite cool how it's visually shown me that. And it also says, so the fanny is either creating a 6 or a 9. The fanny is going to give birth to these two Earths, which is just another way of looking at the grid. The fanny, you could look at the fanny as the grid, and then you've got the 6, hell on earth, and the 9, heaven on earth. But these are just terms. All it really is balance or not balance. So hell on earth is nothing but earth in a state of imbalance, not being in balance. In other words, it's a place where the earth will be completely in chaos. And then what happened then is you'll be looping inside of that. Like your reincarnation would keep you looping inside of this out of balance until the next cycle where you can get out. And then but if you get into a 9, you're in heaven, and all heaven is an earth in balance. It's an earth where all the creatures on the earth are in balance with each other. So the whole thing is just like, you would become like an animal. How like animals just exist on the earth and are part of it, and everything takes care of everything. It'll be like that. So you've got to make a decision. Do you want to become something that's like all in fear and all the rest of it, out in chaos, or do you want to go into the other way where you're in balance with nature and stuff? I've put here, I'm also going to talk about how the feeling of death taking hold. I'm going to talk about the connection between, there's a bit where I started talking about me and this bloke talking, and I realised that when I listened back, it's basically like telepathy. It was like we were talking without talking. That's what was going on there. I've also put the two timelines are flowing in opposite directions. That is really going to come into play later on in the videos, because that's really coming in with these images. I've got lots of images coming up where you can visually see time flowing in opposite directions, which also comes into the DNA, how it wraps around. So the DNA, which is like two serpents, is basically the two rivers of time, which if you zoomed out far enough, you see it's actually only one river of time. There's only one line, because it actually loops around. But what happens is, because it's looping, it creates two lines, which one's going up, in effect, and one is coming down. So that's how you get one timeline going forwards, one going backwards. But really, they're both actually going in forwards. It's just that it's looped back on itself. It's quite cool. This is why you need images, because once you see it, you will understand it, I think. You've also got the film. I'm also going to talk about how the Matrix, the film The Matrix, I've realised how the film The Matrix is speaking a lot of truths. It's quite amazing. So then I've also put here, well, again, you can replace the word reptilians with whatever you want. So let's just say, what's it? A nasty person. Yeah, the nasty people keep changing. Yeah, what's it? Oh yeah, well basically what I'm saying is, 1 minute I've got a feeling about what these reptilians / what let's just call them reptilians then. 1 minute I'm thinking these reptilians are a certain type of thing, but then later on in the videos it changes. So that's quite interesting how that keeps changing. It's changing, but it's always the same. And when I listen back to some of these videos here, it's quite weird how I said something without realising what I'd said, and later on I realised that I'd said what is actually like the truth, but I didn't realise it. It's quite complicated to explain that, but also put the hijack of the new Earth. This again comes into play later on. What is it? The bit at the very end of this video starts talking about time loops, and it gets a bit confusing, but I understand it a lot more now. It's to do with a bigger cycle, which I believe is this 26,000 year thing, which I've heard about. I've heard about that before. Something to do with every 26,000 years, the Earth flips its axis from south. The poles flip, so north becomes south. Which again, you could even look at that as it flips between negative and positive. So even there, it's almost like it's telling you what's happening. Well, what I've put here, it says, so So what it is we are each looping within a bigger loop. So we're each looping in a loop within a bigger loop. So it's almost like each human has to get out of their own personal loop, but the Earth itself is also looping. So once you return to New Earth, you'll now be part of Earth's cycle, not yours. So you will no longer be looping in your own little thing, which your own little personal loop is also the virtual reality put there by the pyramids, which we'll explain later. So really, we should be in Earth's cycle, but at the moment we're in like our own little loop, which looks real because it's a virtual reality put there to make you think it's real, to keep you out of balance. It's quite interesting, this. So but the loops carry on until you end all attachments. So each human's loop can last for infinity if need be, but you may still get out. But you may still get out of yours. Yeah, in other words, you can get out of your loop, but somebody else might be in their loop for infinity. But the thing is that they would still. It gets really confusing. Again, you need images for this. I'll explain it later. But you can sort of see how something could be in a loop for infinity, for like millions of years, and to the other person who's not in their loop anymore, that person has got out of their loop. It's quite cool. It's really cool. I love this. I love it. You're getting scared and excited at the same time. It's quite amazing. What else did it say here? Look, I've put each human's last, but we still have. Oh yeah, next week I'll have these diagrams that explains it a bit better. As like I said on episode 146, trying to put this in words, it just confuses and creates paradox. And I said it's better to use numbers and shapes. So that's what's going to be coming up. So this video coming up is about an hour, and then what I do is I've got another 3 after this one. I'll put the next one out tomorrow, and then I'll put the next one out on Wednesday and Thursday, and then I'm going to record the roundup on Friday and I'll put it out on Sunday. And then what I'll do then is next week I'm going to sit down. I'll put the camera over the top of my little journal with all the diagrams, and we'll start going through the diagrams and stuff. So I hope you enjoy this one, and well, yeah, I'll see you later as well. See you tomorrow for the next one. Boing. So this is about probably, let's just say 5 to 6 hours after I went to sleep. And I did have a little dream as well, which I wrote in my dream diary, but I can't remember without going over there. But little Dennis is with us. Boing! He's going to say, let's get into this one. I would definitely recommend having a look at the other parts first before getting into this one, because this one is going to be quite crazy, I think. And the other ones was already a bit mad, but this one is going to be using a lot about this grid system thing, which is what it is. So if you're watching on YouTube at youtube.com/SophieLawson, I'll put the grid up on the screen a bit clearer. But to describe it, it's, imagine a sheet of paper and you put it into quarters. So you equals quarters. So you've got like a cross in the middle. And then what happens is the top and the bottom is a positive and negative. So the line from top to bottom is a positive and negative. Positive top, negative bottom, and the line across the middle is, so that's horizontal, is a positive and negative on each side, and then the top half represents physical, the bottom half represents spiritual. But because it's spinning, it's not really like that. That's the thing. Because it's spinning, there is really no halves. It's just that half of it is physical, half of it's spiritual. But because it's always spinning, it's one half might not actually always be the same half. It's quite weird. But what happens is balance is all 4 quarters having no positive or negative. So it's the centre point. It's the centre point where there's no positive and no negative. The sheet represents every single possible probability of that point in the middle being either positive or negative within the spirit and the physical realm. but it's only that point, and each point represents everything. So it represents like an atom, it represents thoughts, it represents a human, but then the human is made up of atoms, so you end up with these grids within grids, never ending, because even the human is inside of, well, it's on the earth, it's inside of the universe, which is another grid, and so you just end up with an infinite grid system. It's going on forever, which is when you start laughing, because you realise this is like death as well. Death and life are the same. The death and life is also using this grid system. So you start realising that you can't die, which is funny. You realise that fear is nothing. Fear is like an illusion, but it becomes real, if you believe it. It's mad. So what happens is you've got in the middle, you've got a circle, which is really a little point, and it's the balance point. So what happens is this grid system, which is a cross, which is also the human. So the human is the cross. In the centre is the circle, which is the balance point, which is the God. But the God itself is also a grid. So this is what I'm saying, it goes on forever. But so as a human, we've got this circle we've got the balance point in the middle, and then what happens is the human is telling the story of all these possibilities playing out on that grid. But really, it's actually always in balance, even though it's got the illusion of actually always being out of balance, which is what's so funny. Because you start realising it's almost like you're sort of like tricking yourself, and what happens is you trick yourself by entangling yourself inside of yourself. So that's what. So and even the God itself is entangled with inside of itself. So then you end up, it is actually never ending. It is impossible for it to not happen. It's impossible for it. It's never ending. It's amazing. But what happens is this whole grid system, which looks like it's flat, is actually spinning horizontally, and it's also spinning vertically, which what that does is it creates this sphere around the point particle in the middle. So you've now got this sphere of all these possibilities. So you end up with this sphere of possibilities, and all these spheres of possibilities are interacting with all the other point particles, and this is where all the other dimensions come in. The other dimensions come in where you've got like a point particle on one grid system, which has spun itself into a point particle of another grid system which is spinning. But really they're not actually overlapping, because the point particles are always separate. Because at the point of balance, everything is balanced. So really the balance would be like a sheet of paper with all the points perfectly spaced. But what's happened is, because it's all spinning, it actually spins into the dimensions. So it's actually spinning itself into physicalness. It's quite funny. It's cool though. Yeah, that's what it's just so funny. So really the balance point is would be like a sheet, and what I saw it as like a piece of carpet with all these little circles on it. It was a piece of carpet. I couldn't see anything, but I could see it, and it was like a carpet, which was actually a wave. So it's like a sheet of paper. Imagine a sheet of paper with all these point particles on it. That's balance, but the sheet of paper is actually moving like a wave. So you've got it moving like a wave, and at the same time vibrating, which is what's creating all of these dimensions, which is why it's never ending. It's never ending because it's actually moving. It's crazy, it is. So that's basically what we're going to be getting into today on this podcast. And yeah, what I will say about this bit is, especially during the start of this, some of it's going to be very, very gibberish, but it'll only make sense later on. It's almost like what was happening was I was getting told something, and as I was getting told it, I was just writing it without really thinking about it. Later on, I would get told something else, and it would sort of make the thing before make sense. So it's almost like, I said on the last podcast, in the last episode. It's almost like the future creating the past, and it can do that because really everything is in balance on this sheet. It's crazy. I love it though. So I'm just going to read what I've wrote, and I'm not really going to try. I'm going to just try to read it. So it says 369. I saw the whole of time, but I didn't see anything. Positive physical, positive spiritual, positive. So positive is like the grid, and it says the grid from that dream. From that dream now makes sense because I had this lucid dream probably about 6 months ago to a year or something. What happened was I went into an out body state, and I popped into this blue. It was like it looked like a star in the night sky, and I got drawn to it and popped. And what happened was there's this bloke there who was conscious, and I could tell he was conscious from separate from me. But later on in this writing, I realised it was actually me in the new earth. The new earth is just a physical representation of the balance. So the sheet of paper where all the point particles are in balance is actually new earth. All the interplay, I suppose, of positive and negative is just different versions of earth where it's not in balance. So what happened was this being, which was actually me in new earth, it was sending the grid into my dream, and it made no sense. And what happened was he knew that I wasn't making sense of it, but he carried on telling me it. So I just kept writing it down. What I had to do was I woke myself up from the lucid dream, and I wrote it all down. I wrote it down, and none of it made sense. And at the time I wrote 1.4, so I thought it was saying 1.4, but what it was actually saying was quarters. It was saying how it's all quarters. Yeah, and then it was trying to tell me, I think, that because what I'd wrote down was positive and negative. I didn't realise there was also positive and negative going upwards. So that's what creates the quarters. It's cool. It's amazing. But this is where it gets amazing. So you've got, because of this grid system, with the positive, the physical and the spiritual, it's actually the upper and lower, like they say, as above, so below. Well, it's all the same thing. And because it's spinning, there never really is an above, because the above might actually end up being below because it's spinning. So it's like a paradox. As above, so below. Really, the only thing that exists is that point particle. But for that point particle to exist, everything else has to exist. Because that point particle is entangled with all these possibilities. It's crazy, it is. And then I put the word thank you. And I said, I felt like, because what happened was, I woke up from my dream, and I normally do my automatic writing. So I actually wrote DMT, which was going to be today's automatic writing. I started out writing as if I was doing my automatic writing, and I didn't realise I still had the DMT flowing through me, because I thought it had gone when I went to sleep. What happened is, as soon as I started writing, it's as if somehow it connected with me again, and it just threw all this information at me. But it threw all this information at me as if it was like making sense of what had come before. Because before I went to sleep, I got all this stuff, and I was like, I even said to this other bloke who was with me, who was like helping me, I said, I'm gonna have to process that. I had a feeling he had to process it as well. Because what happened was, we had this connection where it felt like we were both experiencing something like really powerful, even though he didn't actually do any of the DMT. I said, I felt like I was dying at one point. Me and this bloke are linked. And then I've put everyone else is reptilian, ? Because what happened was, in last week's thing, in the last episode, it said everyone is a reptilian. Now at first that sounds a bit scary if it's real, and it also sounds bonkers and very far-fetched. But later on, when you start, this is what I'm saying, some of the stuff at the start sounds crazy and doesn't make sense, but it will make sense later, because it comes back to it later, which is crazy. It's almost like I was writing questions because I was trying to process it, and then it's almost as if suddenly it just said right, and it started giving me all the information. It's almost like I had to first ask the questions or something. I put something about my mum, which I don't want to say at the moment because it's quite personal, but I have got to let that go. So I'll put here, I am God, two sides of the same thing. Yeah, so what you've got is you've got God and devil. God and the devil is two sides of the same thing. I put me and this other bloke are connected. You saw everything, but there was no visuals. I thought nothing happened, then suddenly I was there. And this other bloke that was with me was the Buddha. I saw him as the Buddha before I went in there, but I must have been in there, even though I didn't realise it. So at the moment I'm still writing about the experience, like trying to process it. Because I said I thought nothing happened, then suddenly bang. So I talk about the experience on the last episode, which I put a link to in the show notes. And I said, did I experience DMT, but keep my awareness during it? Because everyone says that DMT is this like rocket ship, bang, you're there, visuals, and then you quickly come back. But this was just completely opposite. It was a long process with no visuals. It's almost like it was the exact opposite of what it should have been. And I wondered to myself, have I done so much lucid dreaming practice that somehow I sort of slowed down the process of DMT so that I could actually write it all down. That's the thought I've got. And then I've drawn a pyramid again, and I said pyramid is the virtual reality. So these pyramids are virtual realities somehow. And then you've got pyramids within pyramids. I felt like millions of years. Yeah, felt like millions of years ago. I won't be able to read some of this. And then I put genius. I just keep thinking about the word genius. And even now, it's all genius. When you realise what's going on here, it's absolutely amazing. Because you realise there's nothing you can do, but there's nothing you have to do, because it's already been done. It's like you are in balance without realising it. It's just funny. It's really funny. I love it, I do. So I put here, this is all a story. Characters, genius, how the timeline is all one thing. Yeah, so again, it's almost like that sheet. You've got the sheet, which is the balance, which is like the timeline. That's the base timeline. But our timeline is like one of the spinning sort of, it's a spinning collection of point particles that have come off of the base timeline. So that's what the illusion is. The illusion is thinking that the illusion is not realising that we are actually really on the balance point. We're really on the original timeline, but we think we're on this other timeline. It's quite funny. It's genius. And I put the Akashic Records. That was it. I saw the Akashic Records during the experience. I didn't see anything, but I saw everything. So I saw I saw everything, which was all possibilities. And what happened was, I took the reptilians. Well, this is funny. I spent a lot of the experience with a fishing rod, and I was fishing. I was fishing inside of the Akashic Records, and I thought I was trying to bring something out. And then at the end of the experience, again, because it's like the future is creating the past, what happened was I actually threw the reptilians into the Akashic Records, and that's how it got rid of that's how the new Earth has no reptilians, because I threw it into the Akashic Records. It's quite funny. I thought it was cool. And then I put fishing like a sea of potential. The Akashic Records is like this sea of potential. But all it is actually the Akashic Records is the original timeline. The Akashic Records is where everything is in balance, but it looks like it's all possibilities, because all possibilities are actually inside of the timeline of balance. It's genius, and it's like a self-regulating experience thing. Ship came but didn't stop. And I said I took my hat off, made a fool of myself, and I put yes, laughing fits, funny. What's this here? Something came and it started to take, the darkness. Darkness came, it started to take over my body, because I had this period where I said it felt like I felt like I was aware of being able to die. Yeah, no entities. There was no entities, just awareness of everything. Because again, before I went into it, they all said about these DMT entities. I never saw any entities at all. All I saw was a pure darkness within the darkness, which I knew was like this collection of entities. No, it wasn't even entities, it was a collection of energy. It was a collection of energy that was trying to get into me, I suppose. It's quite weird. Yeah, because what was happening was it had this feeling that it was trying to get into New Earth. It's trying to get into the balance realm, but it can't, because the balance is entangled inside of itself. So that's what it's doing. It's amazing. The original timeline has actually set up a system where it is impossible for it to not be the original timeline. Yeah, so everything inside of these alternate realities, which is what we're inside of, is trying to get into the original timeline, but it can't, but it doesn't have to, because it's already the original timeline, which is what's so funny about it all. Because then you realise that nothing really matters, but everything does matter. It's mad. So I put no entities, just an awareness of everything. I put this other bloke was a light. Because what happened was, I was there on bed. Suddenly this bloke who was sitting on the chair, he became like a light. So I couldn't see anything, but I could see this light. Which I thought was cool. I scribbled all over my art books, which was funny, because what he did was he scribbled all over my sketches. But it was cool, because that was a form of letting go, which was something what I wanted was to learn how to let go. So even that process was like funny. And I put DNA is time spinning. DNA is the story inside of us. Yeah, so DNA is the process of these point particles spinning. But it's only certain point particles, because what happens is everything's spinning, so you end up with like a bubble of a collection of spinning particles. So, but because they're all spinning, they have to actually have a timeline. So it's almost like it's got to be never-ending stories. Never-ending story, like that film. I think it's Never-Ending Stories. Yeah, that film. Oh, that's cool. That's quite funny. Yeah, it's amazing. Still sort of feeling it. It's quite weird. DNA, story inside of us. Feeling of having pissed myself, but I didn't. It's amazing how real that feeling of weeing yourself was, even though I didn't. It's quite funny that. And I put Willie and Fanny, same thing, which is cool, because it goes into me being transgender. The reason it was, I think it says it later, it talks about the reason I was transgender was to realise that there's no difference between the Willie and the Fanny, male and female. Transgender is all about like opposites. And then you realise that, because when I changed my name from Kevin to Sophie, I realised I was still the same person. Even though I was different, I was the same. So then you start realising that labels are nothing. So these labels mean nothing. And it's amazing. It's amazing how my life is like, it's a story. Yeah, it's a story, because everything's a story. And I'll put here, carpet like a circuit of time. DNA is the time slowed down. Yeah, so the DNA is the time slowed down. Because really, you're in the base reality. So when all these particles create a sphere of spinning particles, that is what is creating the story. So the DNA is like the story, and that has to be slowed down for it to be the story, because otherwise it wouldn't exist. So that's the process, which is like a separate timeline from the original timeline. So you've got different timelines within timelines as well. It's crazy. Yeah, but even the timelines within the timeline are linked to the original timeline. The original timeline is linked to the other timelines. this is why you realise you can't not have anything. Yeah, because it's all the same thing. Oh, it's funny. I felt like I was in the future and past together. I was seeing how stuff in the past was put there by me now in the future. Hat off on entry. Yeah, because the bloke that was with me, he took his hat off, and then I took my hat off, and I couldn't stop laughing at how genius it was. It was so genius how, and that's the thing, it's these little things it's doing, which seem insignificant, but they only have meaning later when something happens, but they only have that meaning because it happened before. They're linked together. The future and the past is linked together. Couldn't stop laughing, said it's so funny. Genius. I am God. 369 circles, fuzzy vibrations. DNA is story inside of us. And I put mums, because me and this other bloke are linked with our mums, entangled with our mums. It says my hair grows without me doing anything. 369 triangles, circles, squares. And I put wish I had filmed it, but it didn't matter. And the reason it didn't matter is because it doesn't matter. It's cool, isn't it? That's how funny it is. It's funny that it doesn't matter. But you think everything matters, but it doesn't matter. That's what I think is amazing. Yeah, seemed like the most important information ever, but also didn't matter at the same time. Like, this is amazing. In a minute we're going to get into these paradoxes. It's going to get crazy. New Earth, and I was talking about the reptilians. Reptilians are free from New Earth. Pyramids are from the future past cycle, 2012-2021, the time loop. New Earth equals 2012, but 9 years of time loop to save souls. Swearing not bad. Oh yeah, because I kept saying about swearing. I had this feeling, this is what I did, this is what's amazing. This is amazing, how it shows you stuff to explain the stuff it's showing you, which you don't quite understand. So it said like, swearing is not bad. This is where you put it on the grid, swearing is negative, but it can actually be positive. So this is where you start realising swearing can be negative and negative, but swearing can also be negative but positive. Yeah, so at that point it's not actually negative because it's positive as well as negative. So you start it said to me swearing, because I started swearing in the experience, and I never swear, but it was like saying, because you've always thought swearing is bad, but it's not. I put squiggles make circle. Yeah, this is it. Look. Squiggle makes circle. Physical as a wave. Ship on the water. 3 physical pyramids. Spaceship. What about the podcast? And then I put attachment. So it's got what I did was I did a little spider diagram. It says attachment, podcast, mum, and then it's got the bloke that I was with yesterday. So it's sort of like attachment. And I said I started dancing, which is cool. I never danced in front of somebody without having had some drink. Touched the wall, boing. It was solid but not solid, which I thought was cool. And then there was a bit later on where I touched the wall and I realised that I was also the wall. It was like everything was like connected. Strangling, so that seemed to be important. That strangling seemed to be an important connection between me and this bloke. Something to that, I think. It says podcast, letting go. Yeah, so this podcast is all about letting go. Like not hiding my hair. It's like letting go. And again, this is what's so amazing about it. I've just recently started wearing wigs on the podcast, and it's because in the future, which is now, it knew that it would be more impactful to have been wearing the wigs. So when you don't wear the wig, it's got more power because you started wearing the wig. It's amazing. This thing is amazing. Because it knows everything. It's like all planned out. Yeah, because it feels like it's not planned out because you're travelling this way through time, but really it's actually going that way through time. So this is me talking now. I almost imagine that the balance reality, which is the sheet of paper, that time is flowing that way. All the point particles, which are in balance on that timeline, when they start spinning, they spin themselves out of balance, which actually puts them in reverse along the timeline. So their time is actually going in reverse. And maybe, because this is still me talking, maybe that is what brings them back into the original timeline. They have to be put out of balance in order to get back into balance, and they have to be put out of balance because otherwise the thing can't be in balance on the base timeline. Yeah, so that's how you get it connected, like the two things. And then I'll put here, there's a triangle. It's all about freeze. Everything seems to be about free. I put psychedelics, meditation, lucid dreaming, triangle. Learning to swim was the wave. Go back to the one. I don't know what that means. Go back to the one. Go back to the balance, maybe. I'm not sure. New Earth hijack. VR within a VR. That's how they stop masses awakening. Yeah, they stopped masses awakening by putting a VR within a VR. So it's like a double VR thing. 999 days lives. It's all funny, like Funny the cat that jumps through my window. It's all story. We are characters. Pyramids within pyramids, which is like the VR within the VR, which is like the entanglement within the entanglement, which is like the time within time. It's everything is inside of itself. It's amazing. And I've wrote all over my sketches, letting go, let go of mum. What's it say here? Look? Taste nasty. This is weird. I put taste nasty but familiar. Yeah, the DMT, it's got this very strange taste to it. Don't know if I could explain it really. It's weird though because you can smell it. It's got a smell to it as well. The smell smells like the taste, which is quite funny. But the thing is, I smelt it because what happened was when I went out to the toilet, I come back in, I smelt it. It smelt familiar, even though I've never smelt it before. What's this here? I'm still writing about the experience because I wanted to. I put first didn't work, second didn't, then did. 2 hours of wow. That's what I've put. I feel like I saw all of time together as like a story, as like a storybook, but it was like a story of stories. Yeah, again, it's all within itself. So you've got these stories within a story. Because even the story itself, the base story, is inside of the stories. That's how it's never ending. It says, I've circled the word December. December 2021 seems to be really important because it's the end of the 9-year time loop cycle, which links into 2012. The thing that's weird about that is if you get 2012 and you turn it around, it sort of turns into 2021. It's quite weird. I didn't notice that. Almost like opposites. It's almost like the opposites of it. And that ends up being 9, which is like 3 lots of 3. So because everything seems to be free, and the pyramid is a free freeze, it's almost like that's representing the 9 years of the time loop. It's very strange. It's like the physical is representing the numbers. Saw a ship come but go. Yeah, it takes the souls and then leaves. Then I've got this grid with the positive, negative, physical, spiritual. It was laughing at how genius it all was. I'm on the new earth, come back into the 9-year time loop to try and take mum. And then everyone else is reptilian. Story and characters. What's it say? Could have done a second. Oh yeah, I could have done a second one, but I felt okay on this. 100% like to go back. I would 100% like to go back, but I feel like I don't need to. So in that, I don't think I would go back, because if you're only going to go back because you would like to, I only wanted to go there to experience it, and I got exactly what I needed, so I don't feel like I need anything else. But it was such amazing, you'd love to go back there. yeah, so what happened was he actually said, do you want to do another one afterwards? And I just felt like I didn't need to. And I'm so glad I didn't, because when I woke up from my little sleep, I still sort of had it. So if I'd done another one, maybe it would have got in the way of doing this. So again, as I said all along, follow the feelings. The feeling said yes to do it the first time, then the feeling said no the second time. And again, this is almost like positive and negatives. It's like you can say no, which is like a negative, but it's really a positive. It's quite cool, because like the words are like a visual representation of all the process. I said, I can't believe how vivid it was without any visuals. That's what's so amazing. It is amazing. There was no visuals at all. It's not even dark, it wasn't even black, there was just nothing. And yet there was everything. You could see everything without seeing anything. I put the word believe, and then what I thought, this is what it said. The bloke who was with me, he came from the past to help me. I came from the future to help him. That's how we were entangled. And then I put DNA, little circle with the word solid, and I've got the squiggles. Vibration equals solid equals DNA equals time equals story equals loop. Story equals me and you. 50-50, 1-0, 369 pens and pencils. Funny is God. So Funny is this little cat that jumped through the window. She's God. This is what it said. And it says, yeah, he turned into a light and a Buddha, the bloke I was with. So I think, well, yeah, but in a minute it starts to get a bit crazy. At the moment I think I'm still writing from, I put 2021, 36, what is it, 36, and then you've got a circle with the numbers 36 inside of it. Oh yeah, because it's almost like that grid is somehow 369 is inside of that grid. It's like one of the quarters is 3, 2 of the quarters, which is a half, is 6, and then the other bit is 9. But I can't work out how that makes sense. Because it would have to be 2 sets of 3, 2 sets of 6, unless it's the 3 and the 6 creates the 9. I don't know. Maybe the balance in the middle is the 9, because the balance in the middle has the 3 and the 6 or something. I don't know what that is. That's quite weird. And it says spins like a clock, like time. This is why you've got time, because it's all spinning. 369 again, pyramids. Everyone in their own entangled VR with 2 souls. Reset equals reptilians, but VR within VR, all need to awake. New Earth. Everything made sense in such a beautiful way, it was genius. Talking to God. I put talking to God. Synchronicities, only 2. So this is still what I said about on the last episode. Reptilians equals death. Future equals a segment. It was just darkness, but everything existed. I felt like I could have chosen to die. I felt like 2 sides. Yeah, and then I drew this little fanny, because I saw the Earth as a fanny. What I saw was, I think I got it wrong in the last episode. What I drew was, I drew a fanny, which was the Earth, which is on the centre of the grid. And then you've got it says old Earth, new Earth on either side of it. So the fanny, which is the Earth, is giving birth to these 2 Earths. It's a bit weird. Saw in the Akashic Records, like a sea of thingies, like a sea of data. There's a sea of data, with all the fishes being the data. Time is DNA. Just like I thought, but was it? Just like I thought, but nothing like yeah. It was just, this is the thing. Before I went into this DMT experience, I had a feeling it was going to be all visual and stuff, and intense, like an intense sort of feeling with motion and stuff. But it was the exact opposite. It was very calm and peaceful, very slow, but it was still intense. So it was intense but slow, which is, I think that's cool. But yeah, Dream Diary has helped. Yeah, I slowed down time to get it all slowed down. Was it? I slowed down time to get it all in slow speed, so I could still write it down. In other words, if I hadn't slowed it down, I wouldn't have been able to write it all down. So you've got the squiggle equals a rotating, well, the squiggle becomes a spinning, basically it becomes a spinning, the point becomes the wiggle becomes the circle, which is then spinning, and it creates the pyramid. So the pyramid is solid but not solid. I'll put here, this is quite funny. That's quite funny that. I think what I put was, I think the other bloke I was with, I said I think he shit himself. But no, he didn't. What happens if I go, what would have happened if I'd gone to one of these, because I was getting pulled towards, one side was the negative, one side was the positive. And I still think to myself, what would have happened if I had actually gone into one of these sides? But then you also know it doesn't matter, because it's weird. And I said, what if I let the fear in? Yeah, it came over me like that scene in The Matrix. There's a scene in The Matrix where what happens is he gets all this like silver metallic stuff going inside of him, and it goes all over him. Yeah, it was just like that, but there was no visuals again. So it was like you could feel the coldness of death going through your body, and you had a choice there. You could have let it taken over completely. Yeah, you could have let that completely gone in. It's quite weird. It's very weird. So what's it say here? Like death consumes me. Yeah, and also what it was doing was it was squeezing my belly as if like you couldn't breathe. So you had this coldness coming over you, and you had this like the squeezing belly thing. Very weird. What have I put here? I could have let it in but asked for help. Yeah, I asked for help. 2 entangled souls. Because I asked this other bloke that was with me. Yeah, 1 VR, each VR part of a bigger VR. What's it say here? Saw like everything as, yeah, this was cool as well. So you couldn't see anything, but you could sort of see everything without seeing it. And I put it was like a wireframe, but you couldn't really see it, but you could see it. So you could like see like the wireframe of everything, which was like, to me it was like, that's the wireframe is like the possibilities of everything being. So that's why you could see everything, but you couldn't see it, because it's not really there, but it is. But it's not like, was it? Yeah, this bloke was talking at one point as if we both got it. Yeah, this was weird. He was saying stuff as if he was saying what I was thinking, and then I was saying stuff as if it was like there was this connection between us, as if we were sort of almost, it was amazing. It was like we were sort of singing together with words, but we were only speaking, but it was amazing that. I felt that. That was quite amazing that. He was coming from another dimension, yeah, because he was here, sat on my chair, I was over there, I had my eyes shut, so it's like I was in another dimension, and he was talking to me from this dimension. You can sort of like, it was as if like there was a portal, but you couldn't see nothing. That's what's weird. You could hear it though. I was talking but saying start before it happened. Yeah, I was saying stuff before it happened. It's as if you were like, you were seeing the future, but you didn't realise you were seeing the future, but as you spoke about stuff, you realised that you were speaking about the future, because it would then happen, but you weren't actually seeing it. At one point he even said, how did you know that? How did you know I think that? I said, because I'm you. The connection, I wasn't expecting that connection. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. And it's, but this is what's so cool about it is, because I wasn't actually going to do it with that person, I was going to do it with someone else. So I did it with that person by synchronicity, which is what I spoke about on part 1, the synchronicities of this all coming together, and it turns out that we are actually connected. Again, it's almost like we were supposed to do it together, which is quite weird, but he actually didn't do it. he didn't do it. I don't think he needed to do it, because when I did it, it's almost as if he did it through me. It's quite weird. What does it say here? Oh, I also had a memory of playing darts with my sister. Yeah, like a life rerun. It's all in reverse. I thought I was fishing for something, but was actually throwing it back. That's quite cool. And it was to say, like, never ever experienced anything like that before. I've never experienced anything like this before. My instinct was it? What's that word? What's it called? What's that word? My intention. My intention was to let go. I did, fully. I let go fully, which was my original intention before doing the psychedelic. And I said, so I let go fully, but not in any way I could have made up. Yeah, that's the thing. I couldn't have made, the way this all played out, I couldn't have made it up. That's what, again, it makes you feel like it's genius. Not in any way I could have made up. He said about for coming in, yeah, synchronicities again. I saw how that was part there after the event. Again, it's all about time flowing in both directions. It's mad. Time's flowing in both directions. That's how it's that's how everything's stabilised. So you've got one half which is stable, the other half is complete chaos, but it happens because it's flowing in different times, different directions. Time's flowing in different directions, which allows the chaos to exist with the complete balance. It's mad. So there's this lady that walks around here. She's talking gibberish. She's talking to herself and stuff, and I've always had this strange connection to her. What happened was, during this, especially near the end of it, I was talking such gibberish, I suddenly became that lady, which is weird. And I felt this connection with this lady who's talking gibberish. It feels like she's actually connected. So people who are talking gibberish and appear to have lost their minds are actually connected. Again, it's like the opposite of it. I thought I was genius. Was it say? Yeah, I kept saying it's genius. Nothing matters. There's nothing to worry about. Yeah, and then what I also realised was, so I've got this addiction to video games. The bloke I was with said he had an addiction to smoking, and again, you start realising there's these connections going on. There's something to do with the addiction as well. But it's all about balance. So again, it goes into this graph, this little graph thing. You can have a negative thing, like playing video games. Yeah, but video games could either go to extreme of negative, but you could also make it positive. It's about the balance. And then he said he has stuff to tell me, but he wouldn't open up. And I didn't want to push it, because it's not for me to, it's him to open up about stuff. I said, it was like I was possessed, but still fully in control. Yeah, that was weird. It was like I was possessed, but still fully in control. Just free from any sense of self-consciousness. That's how you let go. If you can do all that stuff and say all that stuff, you can do it whenever. Yeah, in other words, if you can do it in that experience, if you can fully let go inside of the psychedelic experience, because this is the same as that, it means you can do it whenever you want. So all you've got to do is remember that you've done it there. You can do it whenever you want. Yeah, you were free from any self-consciousness in there. Even from yourself. There was no judging at all. Is it my mind connecting all I learnt, or is it making it up, or is it truth, or just a story? If I didn't research this stuff, would I still have felt and seen it? It was like it connected everything. It's like it connected time, DNA, body, physical and spiritual, art, reptilians, pyramids, 369, waves, vibration, solid, virtual reality, God. Each time is revealed more. Yeah, each time it revealed more. Each time it revealed more. Yeah, each time it revealed more, I kept saying genius. It's a multi-layered story of genius. Not a knowing, more a knowing than a seeing. Yeah, you didn't see nothing, you just knew it. Day leading up, oh yeah, the robins, talked about on the last one. I didn't realise this, but most of this automatic writing to start with was actually me writing about yesterday. It only started to get a bit crazy in a minute. So this one's going to be a long episode as well, I think. What have we put here? Before little spiritual protection, set my intention, rang the bell. Yeah, it was a beautiful little setup to the taking the experience, taking the psychedelics. Was it? Oh, I saw a stick in slow motion. I said that. Yeah, it was amazing how you could start. You saw it move around your body. You were seeing the body in time. Time was so messed up. No entities. I was outside of the place they existed. I was outside of the place where entities existed. How crazy is that? Because we are entities as well. So you go outside of the place where entities existed. I've put here as well, Oracle. So in the Matrix, the Oracle, one of the things they said was, you hear not what you want, but what you need. It just felt like that to me. It felt like this DMT experience gave me not what I wanted, it's what I needed. Because I wanted visuals and stuff. But I got exactly what I needed, which was learning how to let go. It's cool. I needed to hear everyone a reptilian, as then, fuck 'em. Yeah, in other words, what happens is, in the Matrix, this is where it makes sense about these reptilian things. So this is going to be different for everyone. So for me, this is how I've interpreted it. In the Matrix, the Oracle tells Neo he's not the one, because he needed to hear he wasn't the one in order to become the one. That's how clever it is. It's the same thing here. I needed to hear that everyone is a reptilian, because then I can say, fuck 'em. Who cares? I can do whatever I want. And that's how I'm going to let go. So in other words, everyone is not a reptilian, but everyone is a reptilian, because that's how you let go. Yeah. I was in a stage in front of all possibilities in an unmanifested state. The physical distracts you. And then you've got 9 years, 9 days, 9 lives. It's time loop. Letting go is the ego death. The death of the ego, the ego is a reptilian. Reptilian equals death. It's all hidden in the visuals, which is art. This is why art is amazing, because art is actually revealing the process of balance, but it does it via the chaos. What have you got here? Look? Everything is in threes, but it's 3, 6, 9. 9 equals solid, 3 equals part of the solid. The 3 is made up of wiggles. 3 on its own, 3 on its side. So those numbers just kept coming up all the time. 3, 6, 9. And I put here, made a fool of myself, but that's what I needed. Let go equals becoming a fool. Don't care what anyone thinks. If everyone a reptilian, fuck 'em, let go. And it said I had a choice to die. It was to my right, it was to my left. We will have to choose 2021. It loops back to 2012. We are on the new earth already. We've travelled back in a time loop for our mums. Yeah, thank you. I can feel I'm letting go. I am on the new earth. No reptilians on the new earth. And then, well, this bit here is a bit crazy. This bit, it's a hijack of the new earth that we created. It's a hijack of the new earth that we created a time loop to 2012 to remove the hijack. Somehow we created the hijack by going back to 2012. Something to do with the mums. Bringing mum back is the hijack. Well, this bit here gets a bit quite sort of personal things, I suppose. This is how it's talking about the hijack, which is what created the virtual reality. But again, it's going to be different for everyone. This is what's so cool about it. It's the same for everyone, but different, because it's all like it's the story thing. That's why they tried to help. I've got to be careful what I read here. Or have I? It's a 9-year loop. You do realise, this is what it said. It said, you do realise the podcast is for you to talk to yourself, to free yourself. How cool is that? It was talking to me. That's why they tried to help. Ah, this is cool. That. What says here? Look. Yeah, what is it? Me and this other bloke tried to bring Mum back to New Earth. It says here, look. That's why they try to help, but they can't come in. So what happens is you've got other people on New Earth who are trying to help you inside of the New Earth. They're trying to help you inside of the VR, and the VR is you trying to pull people back into the New Earth. But they can't come into the VR, else they would end up creating more entanglements. This is why things outside of the system can't actually come into the system to help you. It has to help you indirectly. Because if it comes into the system, it then creates new entanglements. Which is like this is like the way this is where the system has actually self-guarded itself. Yeah, there's like rules to everything. But this is what's prolonging the hijack. It's prolonging the hijack because they can't come in. Everyone basically has to go into their own 9-year time loop. Yeah, it's very weird that. And it's what does it say? I love this bit. It said, you do realise the podcast is for you to talk to yourself, to free yourself. Then everyone is free, because it's only me who isn't free. But everyone else is hijacked because of me. That's quite weird, isn't it? But I'm already on the New Earth, so it's already done. This is what's cool. Yeah, I free myself from the time loop, which frees the New Earth. The clarity of how... Yeah, there was this clarity of how vibrations, numbers, time, DNA, physical, spiritual, male, female, solid and soft, story, how it all links together to create a story. So even the story is inside of the story. And I put the clarity of it was amazing, even though there was no visuals. Everything I wanted, I didn't get what I got. I didn't get what I got. I didn't get, but I got exactly what I needed. Yes, you got no visuals, no entities. So I wanted visuals and I wanted entities, but what I got was understanding of everything and letting go, which was me being a fool in front of somebody, which I've never done before. You become a fool by knowing everyone is a reptilian, even though they're not, but they are. It's mad. Yeah, because it's because you're inside of a separate loop within the bigger loop. Oh God, it's crazy. Yeah, I 100% did not care what this bloke thought of me, and I've never experienced that before. It was a complete letting go. I needed to do it first. I needed to do it in front of him. Look at this bit, look. I needed to do it in front of him, this bloke, because he reminded me of my dad. So again, you've got the thing linked in with your dad. You needed to make a fool of yourself and be accepted in front of somebody who reminds you of your dad, because it's your dad that's always kept you away from being able to let go. Yeah, I said it was genius how it's all connected. It's a massive web, a storybook. Time flows in both directions. I was in future and past together, but yet still separately experiencing it. Yeah, it's weird. Gave me exactly what I needed. Even though it is like future and past but being together. I don't know what that's all about. Something about the future and the past is actually together, even though it's like separate. And I'll put here, this is the year, the end of the time loop. We have to make a choice. We're all entangled in a time loop. That's why others can't come in physically to your time loop. It's self-contained. We're all inside of self-contained time loops of 9 years, from 2012 to 2021. Nobody can come in. Nobody can actually come in to get you out. Well, actually, you have to. Yeah, because then they would then create their own entanglements, but they're also inside of their own time loops. So what's happening is we're all going to end up getting out of the time loop at the same time, even though one soul could travel 1,000 time loops. It could do 1,000 trips through this 9-year time loop. Another one could do one. So one of them has only been there for 9 years. The other one has been for the 9,000 years. But when you pop out, you'll both be popping out at the exact same moment. So that's why other beings can't come in to physically help you, because we're all separately in our own time loops. This is what's so amazing about it. It is amazing because you yourself have to get yourself out of the time loop. Yeah, nobody else can get you out of the time loop. This is why it's mad. Mum's got to get herself out of the time loop. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's brilliant. What's amazing is you've got to let go of everything. You've got to let go of everything in order to realise that you already had everything. It's cool, but everyone's got to do that. But everyone's already done it. That's cool. I love it. The reason this year is so important is it's the end of the time loop. So this is a point where you either get out of the time loop or you end up going back to the start of the time loop. So you've got this 9 years time loop. It's mad. This is why it feels like don't matter. Yeah, this is why it feels like it don't matter. It's just a story that's already done. But it's in the looping that needs to be paid attention to. I let go. Entangled soul equals entanglement. Entangled soul, enlightenment. Enlightenment equals breaking all entanglements. Yeah. So what happens is you go into this VR, you go into this time loop entangled with another soul. So what you've got to do is you've got to actually entangle yourself from the entanglement, which is impossible, because if something is entangled, it's entangled. You can't be not entangled. But this is the power of free will. The power of free will means we can actually untangle an entanglement, which is a paradox. So what happens is you actually have to create a paradox within the paradox to end the paradox. Yeah, see, what happens is you let go of your entanglement to the other soul. So the other soul doesn't have to, because you start thinking, well, I've got that, because what I started thinking was, I thought, well, that means I can't get out of this time loop unless the other person also gets out of the time loop. It's not like that. You get out of the time loop by ending your entanglement with the other person. It's only you that has to end the entanglement. But what's funny is, when you end the entanglement, you've actually ended the entanglement for them as well, because you're entangled with each other. So you can't have an entangled, not tangled. You can't have somebody entangled to something that isn't entangled to itself. You can't have number 2 entangled to number 1 when number 1 has entangled itself from number 2. So you entangle yourself, then the other one gets entangled automatically, which is funny, because then what it means the other one does become unentangled. It's genius. It's genius because it's amazing. It's amazing because it's all paradoxes. If two entangled souls detach, which is impossible as they are entangled, but I can feel it is possible due to free will. Enlightenment for all souls, which is the new earth, which is the balance, which is the original timeline, which is going in the opposite direction, which is the new earth. So you only need to focus on your entanglement. This is the thing. You don't have to worry about anyone else, which sounds weird. All you've got to do is separate your entanglements, which entanglement is attachment. Separate your entanglement, you go back. But because everything is entangled, because this is the thing, it's not just you that's entangled with your entanglement with that entanglement, your entanglement is entangled with another entanglement, and then those two entanglements are entangled with other entanglements, so you end up seeing that everything is entangled on itself. So all you've got to do is detach yourself from all your attachments, which is ending your personal entanglement. And what that's going to do is everyone will become unentangled at the same time. So in other words, when you go to the new earth, everyone's going to be on the new earth at the same time. That's cool. So this is why it's so amazing. This is what it's done, is put itself inside of an entanglement. Yeah, it's like the God has put itself inside, the God has turned itself into a character and then put itself inside of the God. Yeah, so what happens is when that character becomes unentangled, it returns to being God. So the process of returning to God ends all the entanglements. Because if you become God, there can't be any other entanglements. Because the God would no longer be entangled. It's cool. And I'll put here, you only need to focus on your entanglement because it's like a carpet. Yeah, it's like a carpet of entanglements. So you break one entanglement. If you've got a carpet and you break one piece of it, the whole carpet will unravel because it's all linked together. Yeah, which is this looping thing. Each entangled soul is in a time loop. It's a carpet of entangled souls. So what's happening is the time loop, which we are inside of, is our personal virtual reality, which is inside of a bigger virtual reality. You don't have to concern yourself with getting out of the bigger virtual reality, because the little in virtual reality is entangled with the bigger virtual reality. Yeah, so you get yourself out of the time loop. What it's going to do is the carpet of entangled souls is going to untangle itself. Yeah, because I thought to myself, if you're entangled inside of an entanglement, that means you're going to never be able to get out of the entanglement. But you do. It's almost like, yeah, I can't understand that bit. It's done it so that everyone has to untangle themselves. Because if there was only one entanglement, only one person would have to entangle themselves, and then everyone's unentangled. But this way, everyone has to untangle themselves each separately, which is actually, everyone has to get rid of their attachments, which means they go to the new earth. Everyone else is going to have to do that themselves. But when you get to the new earth, everyone has already done it because they're all entangled together. Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's reversing in the timelines. When you unentangle your personal virtual reality, you go back to the timeline going in the well, I would call it the right direction, which is actually the opposite to what we've got. So then but the other ones, all the other souls could still, they would still be in their entanglement, looping, but really they're out here. So that means really that's the same for me. That means I am also actually in the base reality. So I am already on the new earth because everyone else is out of the, yeah. See how genius it is? It's already happened and it's never going to happen. It's mad. The VR within a VR. I'm going to have to stop this podcast in a minute, I think. I'll just read the next page and then I'll have to do another one. So I'll put, you break your entanglement free from your VR. It breaks the carpet free all from the VR. The two VRs are entangled. This is why it's so genius, yeah. Because by doing that, it's meant that everyone has to do it themselves. But yet we're all doing it together. It's cool. And I'll put it, all I know is everything is fine. It feels so important and yet all is fine. I think that's a great way to end it. I don't know if little Dennis did the gong this week. It feels like this podcast was years ago I started it. It's quite cool. Doing, little Dennis says it's time to finish this one. This week's little inspirational quote is going to be that, I think. I hope you enjoyed that. I didn't even get through much of it really, so we've still got loads to talk about. I'm going to try and get all of this spoken tonight. Might be here for a few hours, I think, but I'm just going to put these podcasts out one after the other over a week or something. So this week's little inspirational quote: all you need to know is everything is fine. I love that. It feels so important and yet everything is fine.